Too many to mention, but you know who you are.
Sorry.
Except for howling. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no shout outs for Hal.
All right, everyone. It is episode 5 of the Grateful Nerd Show. And grateful we have our first guest today.
Holy shit. Who do we got here? Mr. Alebrije Genetics, dude. How's it going?
Yeah, good to be here. I love listening to y'all's show, so it's awesome to be the first official guest now that it's just the two of you. Just the two of you, that is the two of you.
No, it's we wanted to have a special guest on for our first, and who better than Alebrije? I think a majority of us, well, at least the two of us, you fill our tents and our rooms up, so it was just appropriate for that, and of course we'll get into it later on, but I've got the breeding project that I'm doing, and all of your gear that's in there, so we got quite a bit to talk about, but as normal, I think we usually get into kind of just an update of the past couple weeks of what's been going on, what we've missed. What you got going inside your garden, nerd?
I have a lot of updates since last episode.
Right.
But really quick, I started 2 batches of oyster mushrooms. I think that's what they're called.
Nice.
I got them at Walmart. So I've had my eye on them for a while, but it's those like grow your own mushroom kits that come in the cardboard box, and you just like get them wet and cut them open and leave them. And I've always wanted to try those, and I finally found them in the clearance bin for like $5 or $4 or something. So I got 2 of those going. And then I also, along in the Walmart clearance bin, I also found all of these grow your own herb kits for like $2 each. So I filled my 2x2. It's just all like chamomile and lavender and sunflowers, all these weird stuff. And then
I'm excited to see some updates on those. That's going to be cool to see how that 2x2 just really start to fill up with all those different types of plants. And I imagine your basement's going to start smelling pretty darn good.
Hell yeah, that's an awesome mix of stuff you've got going on. Mushrooms and herbs and weed. Love it.
Starting to pull the garden back inside since summer's coming to a close.
Yeah, it's depressing.
I also got I planted speedrun citrus bubblegum this week.
Okay.
And then otherwise, because I harvested my frogception V1. So I got that going. I want to press a bunch of rosin with it.
We'll have to talk more about that. You officially, this is the first run since we talked last about me or I got you out that wood meter, and you're kind of using that as your judgment to when to pull. So I'll be interested to see what your yields are and how you compare that to what you normally do. So we'll talk about that later. So that should be pretty cool. But
yeah, otherwise, so Drowsy Labaka's on, I think it's getting close to the day 50.
Nice.
And
still
it's looking nice.
Getting the big old bush coming out.
Yeah, I've given it 4 haircuts already.
I've heard you say on previous episodes it's the biggest auto you've grown to date yet. Is that correct?
The permanent holiday was.
Oh, permanent. Okay, sorry.
It was the tallest one I ever had, and that was actually in a 5-gallon. That was pretty crazy.
It was pretty impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, that thing was a beast. I saw some pictures.
And then I just have Tangy and Nuka cheese as seedlings. And that's
nice. Now, what Tangy did you end up planting?
Just the regular.
Okay, the F3. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool.
Tried and true.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I've got a shit ton of rosin right here, man, and it is it's definitely one of my favorite daytime go-tos. So it's pretty good, man. I enjoy it. So.
Oh, I also started a mom of the sauce. Or at least I'm gonna try to. At least.
Nice.
That's kind of like the next thing I want to learn with growing is how to take clones and care for clones. So I'm just gonna try to keep a photo going in the 2x2. And then just cut from it and see what happens.
That's a great skill to, to have and to lock down. I too, like, always dreamed of one day, when there's more space and you can grow whatever you want. Yeah, like I would love to incorporate more photo moms and refine the art of taking cuttings and whatnot. And yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah, that's
I've
definitely
had
something we
people
gotta
offer
work
me
on.
clones, right? And then
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, I get clones, and then I'm like, I have no idea what to do with this.
Yeah. It's just kind of one of those situations where you fall into it and it's like, well, I've got it here now. What am I going to do with it? And you kind of just try to run and not stumble. But, it definitely seems like one of those things where even people that do it for a while, that some of them have success, some of them don't. And it's kind of just one of those, you've got to try and try and try again. And eventually you'll get down that system. So I'm excited. As y'all know, I don't have much photo experience myself, so it's something that'll be cool to watch you, and you can teach me how to do that. So I'd also enjoy to do that someday.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, what else you got? Is that all you got going on? Not all that you got going on.
Yeah,
it's an awful lot you got going
a lot.
on.
Yeah,
Cool, man.
No, that's about it.
Cool. What about you, Alebrije? What's going on in the tents?
So I'm right in between a big run. We've got our LA pop up party coming up in about less than a month, and so I just didn't want to start anything too big going on because we're going to be out in California for a week, and so right now I've got a bunch of seed moms hanging drying. I've got all my fall vegetables in the 2x2 in seed trays. I got a bunch of lettuces and greens and frisee and beets coming, and trying to remember what else is in there. Some dandelions and stuff. We eat a lot of greens in the fall and winter. So
you guys have quite a large outdoor garden. You guys have?
We do. Like the garden part itself is probably about a half acre, maybe a little bigger. But it's very much in like the permaculture style. So it's hard to like water it. Everything's really spread out, and we kind of rely on like heavy mulching and compost and a lot of rain to keep everything like looking nice. I was sort of a big failure in our big pumpkin grow along this year.
I'm right there with you, brother. I'm right there.
I did not like do a good job watering it, and we had like a really dry, hot July, and it just was not looking good. And I've tried to water it here and there, but with everything in the garden, it just like nothing really takes much priority over anything else. And I got a ton of other winter squash, so that was great, but no giant pumpkins. So that was kind of a downer. But
it's quite amazing, everybody keeping up with it over in your Discord. It's the Great Pumpkin Grow Along, and this was something that kind of started between, I think it was just a few of us. Of course, it was all headed by Artificial. He was the one that, he was the one that had all these awesome pumpkin seeds, and then it kind of turned into, there was I think a small group of us, and then we were like, I don't know who mentioned it, but it was like, let's get it over into your Discord, and everybody's kind of joined along, whether they were growing the same seeds that he gave us. And it's been really awesome to see people that, all of us are obviously brought together by the plant, right? We all know and we all grow plants, but not all of us are pumpkin growers. And as we can see, it's definitely just a little bit different than what we're used to. So it's been fun.
I mean, and it's one of those things where, we all love talking about the plant and having a good time connecting through that. But when you can tie in other gardening aspects, and I'm already thinking about like how I'm going to do a better job in next year's pumpkin grow, like it's definitely something we can keep going. And I like when we find these little connections that bring us together even more as a community, and as like a little crew. And it's just been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
I'll tell you, it's if you asked me 5-10 years ago that I was going to be hanging out with a bunch of guys talking about gardening and worrying about who was watering their plants and this and that, I would have told you that you're fucking crazy, and there's no way that I'm going to be sitting here. So it's quite
I
interesting
think
how
about
life
that all the
brings
time.
you. Yeah, I never thought it's funny. My mom actually had talked to my grandmother, and my grandmother will watch some of these videos, and she goes, she was the one that I grew up with gardening, and I would get my hands dirty with her, and she goes, I'm so glad to see that you're gardening. So, like she's so happy, and I never thought that I'd be making my grandmother proud that I've become a gardener. And that's really what I enjoy doing. And it's, of course, more so, a specific plant, but I think definitely,
it's the gateway. It's the gateway plant to gardening.
Absolutely.
When you have an interest in growing cannabis and you start to grow your own, you suddenly realize like, oh, maybe I do have a green thumb, or gardening's not as intimidating as it might appear to be. And then it makes you want to, like, it also makes you realize a lot about quality. And once you realize how much better quality you're getting from your homegrown plants, and you also try like a homegrown tomato or a homegrown cucumber, it's like, oh my God, it's just light years beyond what you're getting at the store. It just inspires you to grow more and more.
It definitely gives you perspective.
My pumpkin just popped off this week. I don't know if you saw, but
nice.
I had fully committed to. They didn't germinate, nothing happens, and then I was mowing the lawn this week, and then out of the garden bed, there's just a huge vine coming out, and I was like, oh, I almost ran it over the mower. I was like, oh wait,
that's awesome. I mean, there might be
still
time,
have a chance. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know when
those things grow quick.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And once you get a pumpkin, it seems like, but after watching Johnny's and Herbs and Strong Island, man, there's like blew up like in a matter of just like a week or two. And so, yeah, there may be still time, man.
I haven't even looked, but because I planted them I made like a little pollinator area. So it's like a little box with all wildflowers, lilac tree, all of that. And then I put the seeds in there. So I'm like, but it's like 3 feet tall right now. So I'm like, what if there is a pumpkin in there? And I just haven't seen it. I'm gonna go dig through it.
Bravo. Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, I lost
like that.
One of mine is kind of
revert. Oh,
out. It's good. Go ahead.
All right. Wait, what was I talking about? No, I'm just kidding. I was saying reversing, because I live in like a Leave It to Beaver like suburb. So reversing some of the suburbanness by like making little pollinator areas and stuff.
Yeah,
on the lawn and everything.
I thought that was really cool how Johnny's is just like out in the middle of like the front lawn. Herb too, for that matter. Like they both lived in very residential settings, and I thought that was killer.
Yeah, just shows you can do it wherever. Don't let where you're living stop you from planting some seeds, whether it's just a flower or a huge ass fucking pumpkin. Just do it, and if it gets out of control, it's a plant. Cut it back. You're no worse off. So fuck around and find out. For sure.
We were actually discussing before the episode, because of the breeding project, like post care for seeds, and you had mentioned that you had some seed moms hanging. So I wasn't sure like what you do. Is it like once the plant is dry, the seeds are ready, or do you do anything after?
So that's a great question. I was actually just chatting with a fellow breeder this week about some tips as far as just drying seeds and curing them. I like to do the standard full plant hang dry. I like to get them like toasty, crispy dry, I've taken them down in the past where they've been a touch not wet, but there's that still like underlying humidity, and at least in my neck of the woods, it's very humid. So just like as soon as you remove them from the dry tent, they're already like picking up some moisture. But I found that when you shuck them a little early or a little too wet, that a lot of times you'll lose that chaff, that kind of papery shell that sort of provides those tiger stripes and whatnot. And while the seed is fine, it's just this kind of gray, dull look. But giving it a longer dry and a longer cure before you actually like shuck the seeds from the buds. And there's many different ways to do that. But I found that gives like a nicer look to the seed. Again, I'm not sure how much that may affect the actual seed itself. I don't know. I think just having that paper chaff on the outside is a good thing, because as you handle it with your hands, and you've got these oils in your fingers that can, you know, start to interact on the microbiome, on the seed shell's surface. And again, that may be a good or bad thing, but anyway, I like to let nature do its thing, let it dry for a while, and then I will cut off the buds into just big freezer bags and throw a bunch of desiccant packets in there. So then they're just sort of hanging, curing until I'm like actually ready to shuck. And depends, like if I need to like pop off some testers pretty fast, like I'm happy to just like bust open a couple buds and, you know, score a few seeds, and then like put it on the back burner for later. But usually, like before I'm gonna like shuck all of them, I will wait probably at least a month. Just get them like nice and dry and well cured, and then they usually come out looking pretty nice. From there, again, depends on the project and what's going on, but I might do a little germination test and pop a bunch off and just try to run some in little nursery bags, little quart-sized nursery bags, to just get a glimpse at the population and what you might see or find, or what traits are common amongst most. But yeah, that's really it. You know, it's best, the germination rate after that first month is going to continue to rise, you know, probably for several more months, until, you know, at some point it kind of stabilizes off by the, you know, after 6 months to a year. Then you've got some pretty shelf stable seeds, which if you're going to distribute them, you might want to go ahead and do that. Or if you're going to store them, you know, I put them in Ziploc bags inside mason jars with a bunch of desiccant packets, and I store them in super dry, and I store them in my fridge, all cataloged. There's the whole top shelf of my fridge is jars jam packed with Ziploc baggies full of seeds.
That's great.
Yeah, just that's best for long-term storage. But if it's a project I'm actively working and testing, I'll keep them out in a same jar, dry pack setup, but just out at room temp.
Now, what's the worst case? So you're saying kind of the month is really where you want to wait until you're really getting into those seeds. I mean, what's happening if we're doing it before that month? Is there anything that we really have to worry about, or it's just kind of, it is what it is?
No, in fact, like it's these rainbow guava project that I've got hanging in my dry tent, but I've already like gone and popped a few off of the 3 primary moms I'm looking at, and have done some germination testing. They all scored 100% right off the bat. So it doesn't necessarily, you know, you might be fine to shuck and pop right away. You know, you don't even need to wait any time. But in theory, I guess it's just continuing to like off gas and release a little bit of excess moisture, and in doing so that seed shell is like hardening to a nice crisp that will, when it is like reintroduced to moisture again later, I guess it has an easier time like breaking that, versus like early on maybe it's still moist and it's harder for the plant to break through.
Gotcha.
You know,
okay. Just what you've noticed.
That's totally just what I've noticed and seen. Yeah. There's zero. I don't have a lot of scientific.
That seems to be at least I know. With I had a conversation. We actually talked about it in the Discord. I think it was yesterday or the day before, and that was actually mentioned. I think I was talking to Dino, and he had said the same thing. There was some sort of mechanism that at least he had read that from somewhere else. Same thing that you're saying. So it's lining up.
Yeah, no, I'm really stoked to watch your breeding project, you know, come to an end. Not come close to an end, but it's really just beginning. But taking down this first round of seed moms is a, you know, a triumph, and it's a big marker point, and it's a really cool thing to experience. So
yeah,
you know, that you had so many little bonsais and other various crosses in there. You're gonna have so much fun to play with them, and you know, sort through them.
There's, you know, it's speaking of shucking seeds and this and that. This this weekend was the first round of the ones that I brought down and had dried. Again, dealing with the humidity that we have up here, certain times I kind of evaluate what my situation is for drying, right? And that's going to determine whether I'm hanging the plant whole or if I'm going to be bucking them down in nugs or just going to be, hanging the branches. And right now is the time of year where we're getting a lot of humidity. So I bucked everything down into, I have this, this herb drying rack that I put within a 3x3. And I kind of labeled each shelf, and I had 3 plants. So I had the Photo to Auto #1 by BGG. That was one of the ones that got pollinated. Frogception, and then Chem Labrata. And holy fuck, just for how small those plants are, I was not expecting as many seeds and the seeds to be as mature as they were. And I want to say it was probably 2 to 2.5 hours just for that Chem Labrata, because she was chunky, she was fat, and like every time I'd squeeze it a little bit, one would pop out, and I was like, then there was more behind it, and it was a lot of fucking work. So it's I was not expecting. I was like, I'm just gonna bang these out of the way real quick and we'll be done and I'll go on about my day. It was like, no, like I had to take a break. I had to be like, all right, I'll come back to this tomorrow.
That's where the freezer bag method is great. So they're just like, they're on hand, they're ready whenever you're ready to shuck them. Shucking seeds like for me is totally like you throw on, Lord of the Rings trilogy or something you've seen a million times before, and just half pay attention, half shucking.
Like trim jail.
Yeah, that's how
it's worse. It feels worse.
That's how I treat it. It's almost, I mean, there's another alternative method which can be faster, but there's something I like about just like doing every bud by hand. But you can get them crispy dry, crumble it all up the material, and then pour it in front of like a fan on low, have it like a bin down beneath, and it'll just blow all the the leaf material and the bud material away, and all the heavy seeds will just drop down into the tub. You might want to have like a secondary tub as in case any lighter.
My wife is gonna be pissed. I'm gonna tell her that you put me up to this. There's plant material all over the house. Alebrije told me to do it. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe good to do like out in your garage or in the basement or outdoors or something.
If someone walks in front of it, you just have like a leaf outline on the wall.
Yeah, totally.
That's great.
There's some pretty fancy like designs out there for like these seed separators, like these wood boxes with like a little zigzag, path.
Is that what you were showing me, the like maze thing?
Yeah, so I was actually tempted just because of who I am, and I like to have little gadgets, and obviously, as you guys know, I like to build things, and so we actually talked, Nerd and I had talked about a future video, because I am gonna have so many seeds. Why not just put it to use? And I've got the wood laying around, I've got the hardware. I think the only thing that I'd have to get is that plexiglass to put over the front so you can actually see into it. And I guess if you're doing it at home, you really don't even need to have that. You can just do wood. But I thought about trying to make one of those, because I'm thinking like those 1 gallon pots that I pulled out and all those seeds and how long it took me to do that. Now I'm going to have a plant that is 3 to 4 times bigger and even more heavily pollinated. I was like, yeah, it's going to be insane. So figured.
I think in your situation it'd be a great idea. Yeah, with that big room, all in earth boxes, you got such big moms, and yeah, it'll be a time saver. And especially if it's regular seed and you're not necessarily concerned about a couple maybe flying out the window or whatever.
Yeah,
go for it. Why not?
Yeah, we'll give her a try.
We love those little DIY gadget projects. I was like, oh, I can spend $7 at Home Depot and make this thing to like improve my garden. Like, cool.
Well, y'all are better at them than me, so if it goes well, I'm gonna commission you to make me one.
There you go. That works. That'll work.
Yeah. How's your tea pump going?
My tea pump.
What's it called? The aerator that you made.
Oh, yeah. I've only really messed with it so far. I haven't actually gone through and made a full tea quite yet. I'll probably save it till next round just because I just don't see a point in. I think I'm at like day 50 something on these plants downstairs, and I have no intentions of really adding anything to the soil or anything. I think we're just going to kind of ride it out towards the end. So yeah, haven't messed with it yet, but one of these days I will.
Nice.
What day is your breeding project on? So I go by the videos because I edit the videos. The last time I saw it was day 59 because that was our most recent video.
Because so I'm at day 66, and I can tell you if we were to go down, it's pretty amazing how the plants look compared to what we're used to. The flowers stacking on, everything swelling up and getting real big. That plant material getting really big. It's really funny because you look at it and you can see where the bud sites are, but they're all just these big nodules of like just seeds just kind of stacking up. So it looks really cool. So
yeah, it kind of accentuates the foxtail structure. You know, you'll get just like lumps of seeds on top of each other, especially in like a super pollinated zone.
Yeah, I mean, and that's I tried to let that male go as long as possible. I think it was 49 days was, you know, from the time that we planted that seed to the time that it was harvested, and I can tell you that it hit everything in there, even stuff that I was surprised wasn't going to, you know, stuff that was across the room, you know, in front of, you know, behind like 3 or 4 different plants. They got hit, and I was like, holy crap, that stuff really does fly around. But, you know, the one thing that was kind of interesting, I kind of had anticipated, you know, I exhaust everything outside. So I had figured that what was going to happen was the pollen was going to fly out, you know, out my exhaust fan and outside. And I had some just little itty bitty bonsai plants that were out on my, you know, back porch, just, you know, messing around. And, but none of them got pollinated. Very, very interesting. And they were all planted around the same time. Unfortunately, everything that I did have out there got bud rot. So it was just like, you know, that much of the plant was just all just brown. It had, you know, it had bloomed and then died off.
It could have been that. It could have been you know, moisture out there, or, you know, just
it's terrible
hitting some bud rot or something, and the pollen just sort of isn't viable or whatnot. Interesting.
Yeah,
it's been wet here the past couple weeks.
Terrible. Like it just the heat, humidity has been rough, especially here on the East Coast in general, but especially in the Northeast, we get it pretty bad. But yeah,
it's amazing. Sometimes you guys have it like it'll be like way hotter where y'all are than I am, and it's just shocking at times. Like
the world is changing.
Yeah, you know, fortunate to live in like a very mild climate. You know, we get hot summers and cold winters, but not like no extremes and no wildfires or hurricanes or anything. You know, so grateful to be where
we're seeing an increase in tornadoes in our area, which is wild.
Yeah, tornadoes in the Northeast. It's a strange thing.
But, yeah, that's odd.
It is what it is. But yeah, back to you know, the project. I don't. What would be your suggestion as to knowing? Because I mean, obviously, we're not saving it for flower. What do you do with, you know, after you're shucking those? Do you smoke any of that material? Obviously, with how you see how pollinated, how heavily seeded it is it going to even be worth for me to try to save anything, or is it just kind of like throw junk at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have over the years. I've sampled lots of pollinated bud. I've pressed rosin from it too. The general consensus in my household is it's not ideal to inhale. We usually find that the pollen will just like irritate especially smoking. It will just like irritate our throats and things.
Oh, no kidding.
So like if you're really wanting to utilize all the material, I'd say, you know, probably a tincture or an infusion, something for edibles would probably be best. Even like RSO would probably be a great thing, and the pollen might even be a beneficial there, where it might, you know, people take bees pollen for you know, to just improve immunity,
that honey effect.
Yeah, but,
no kidding. Yeah.
But I have found that it's an irritant to inhale it. I definitely don't care for it that much. But you hear breeders. I know like DJ Short, the legendary breeder who created Blueberry and stuff. Like listen to him, and he says like he loves smoking the pollinated buds, and like that's his preferred stuff. So it's to each his own.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I definitely think you should try it. Give it a go.
I was even thinking of that. Some of the stuff that the plant material that was left from the 3 that I just harvested. I didn't. There was such little plant material, and I thought there wasn't really going to be much, so I just kind of all put it into a bowl. And it was like I was going to try to maybe pack it in some bags, maybe try to press it, see what I get from that, or try some sort of FECO, whatever you call it, or the RSO type stuff, and put it to use in some kind of way. But speaking of smoking seeded stuff, I went and hung out with BGG the other day, and he had given me some of this. He had Sun God, one of his cultivars that he has, and that was all seeded up. And I'll tell you, it's a pain in the ass to try to smoke, but it's actually really good. And I've never had his stuff non-pollinated, but I enjoy it. So
I mean, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's more it mainly depends on how intensely pollinated it was, and is there like pollen left over on the flower, at least just in my case. Like we've had certain times it's been fine, and like certain times like smokes on it, like like my wife got like bad allergic kind of reaction to it. And,
oh, no kidding. Wow.
Not like allergic, but like very scratchy.
You notice the difference from smoking regular flower.
Yeah, totally.
No kidding. Well, now what about for harvesting? So when you're harvesting your plant for seeds, right? Are you taking it usually as full term as you would as flower, or is it going further, less? What do you find?
I'm definitely pushing it further. I mean, I'll even see when some seeds are fully mature and brown and ready, and their little calyxes are opening, and you can see the seed through it. But I'll keep pushing because, and especially you get those secondary round. Those were like the first pistils to be pollinated, but several more rounds would emerge and get pollinated. So I'm trying to get the most mature seeds that I can. So it depends, but I'll always be like popping a few flowers open, just checking them to see how we're doing, because I've cut plants when I thought I like saw some mature seeds and thought they were good, and chopped them down, and then just lots of immatures, and I was like, oh, that was dumb. Like had I pushed it another like 2 weeks, I like would have had a lot more seed stock from it. So I've it's all about learning from your mistakes, and that was definitely one I learned from, was like push it further. It's rare. It has happened to me where I've seen like seeds actually like germinate on the plant. It was so mature. And probably the humidity was quite high,
right?
But rare. There's little risk in pushing it too far.
So what I'm hearing is I've probably got about a month left, at least.
Yeah. I mean,
cool.
Again, it depends. Like if you're making like a lot of regular seeds, and you're whether you were selling them or not, like it's probably more than you could give away or sell. That like at some, you can also, you'll be fine to stop, even if you just get like the first round of pistils that mature the quickest. Like you're gonna be loaded with seeds, dude. So I wouldn't worry about it too much, but it's good, and it could be good side by side kind of experiment to like take 2 that look very similar, take one down 1 week and give the other one another week or 2, and compare the outcome. It's always good to just like use those kind of experiments as a learning tool, and how you can get better.
It's just one of those things you're not going to know until it's kind of your time to do it, right? Like you've got to do it to do it, right? We could sit here and talk blue to the face, but until I actually get there and I'm starting to do it, or I'm in that situation, it's all just kind of just taking in information from other people and just kind of, all right, we'll put it
That's the case with so many things related to growing and processing weed, and especially like listening to nerds, learning to press rosin journey. And, it's something that you can listen to and watch videos of so many times. And I'm sure everyone does. And I did before you get started, but like you still make mistakes on those first few and you learn from them and you figure out how to improve in your given situation.
Yeah.
So we're actually talking about it before we started recording, but that's why, like, when I watch or listen to informational growing or cannabis stuff, I watch it at enhanced speed, just because like I need to make those mistakes by getting my hands on first. So there's only so much the information can do for me. I just blast myself with it and don't try not to think about it too much.
Totally. That was a life-changing revelation for me. And I've ever since been listening to all my podcasts on 1.5 speed. And everybody sounds like a little chipmunk, but I'm just like cranking through them these days. It's great. I've caught up on all my shows, and that changed my life. Thank you, nerd.
Of course.
That's great. Yeah, we've actually talked about that, him and I. I'm like, I can't personally do it. When I sit down to go through that information like that, when I sit to listen to something, it's like I have to give it my attention. Otherwise, I feel like I've wasted it. It gives me anxiety.
Totally. I mean, for certain things, like I like reading books like in paper print. Otherwise, I'll never absorb it. I do find like listening to a lot of podcasts. I want to. It'll come up in a conversation, the topic I was listening to a podcast on or something, and I'll want to say some intelligent information about it, and it's like you realize I'm trying to reach back and think back. It's like, I can't even remember all the details and specifics from that show because I was just listening while I was doing something else, and you're only partially there. But sorry, I'm puffing on the West Coast Tucadillo, and it definitely has me a little spacey.
I'm excited. So tell us about the parents on that. Tell us a little bit about it, and that's the one that's coming up for the West Coast the pop-up, right? So
it is coming up quick. So that one was Marathon OG from Dark Owl, Daz, and Dark Horse. Love that cultivar, great plant. I've grown it a bunch of times. That I wanted to work with it, and I'd originally crossed my dog walker to a marathon, which came into play later in this dogathon. But I wanted to. It had a nice 50-50 kind of mix, but I even wanted to further like stamp that marathon. So I back crossed it to the marathon again. And while doing so, I happened to be running the testers of the Tangy Tibuguana F3. And I found a really like unique outlier that was just this mango perfume kind of pheno, and just had slightly different structure. It was still very narrow leafed, but it was a bushier plant, and it didn't seem to have the same kind of stretch and as Tangy normally does. So there were a lot of like outlier characteristics in it, and I just thought it was unique. And so I just pulled that out of the tester tent and threw it into the marathon pollen donor tent, and tested them later. Loved it. It's now the West Coast Tucadillo, the toucan armadillo, and it's this really gassy, musky. There's some sour, rotten fruit, hints of mango here and there. Not every pheno for sure, but it's just an unusual one. But it's a great hybrid. Unusual in a good way. It's just not like the most common profiles you're seeing these days. It's just got some unusual, like sort of like classic old school weed kind of thing going on.
Yeah, no, I know Flammulated Owl has talked about it, and I think that's one of the ones that he really enjoys growing. I think that from what I've heard, it's not one that I've grown, but there's a lot of medicinal properties from it, isn't it? For like pain and stuff like that from the marathon. They find that it really helps with that kind of stuff. So that'll be interesting. Kind of, I guess that's more of a broadleaf type plant, if I would be guessing.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's really a hybrid on its own too. It's like very medium leaf. It tends to take on this like taller structure. I've made a handful of crosses with it. You've grown a handful of crosses with it, whether you know it or not. It's in the Kim Labrada. It's in the Blue Zermiga. A couple like ones coming out later this fall. And so yeah, I see the marathon structure in a lot of them, and it's just this taller, like has these notable two big praying leaves towards the top. It gets these very hand grenade shaped buds with like little not bad, but like little hints of foxtailing that gives it this just these gnarly looking buds, and
Nice.
comes out in some crosses more than others, but yeah, the original cross of the dog walker with it was a very like, those were more like big round bulbous buds, and so I wanted some more marathon's fantastic, so kudos to Daz and Jason over there. Amazing work they did on that one.
Yeah, Daz is great. Does some great work.
Yeah,
our homie Tree Jace is really excited for this. I know.
Yeah. So it's been a fun effects wise. The Tucadillo is very like it's been great for this morning. It's a good weekend kind of strain when it's hybrid on the uplifting side, but it can make you kind of stony and a little out of it at times. Probably wasn't the greatest choice for the podcast, but I figured it's our next drop. On that note, if I may, so the plan is we've got like around 25 of us who are going to be at the party in LA, and everybody there is going to get their little gift bag with the Tucadillo packs. But then during the party, we're going to do a public drop online of the other like 70 or so packs. So it'll be available to others. I haven't done a very good job stating that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where as everybody knows, I went to the last pop-up, and most people had contacted me, and that's how I ended up with I think I ended up walking away with like 8 packs or something like that. So it was like I became
grateful. Like, walked up to me, I was like, I'll have like 10 packs, please. Like,
I swear they're not for me. I'm not trying to like hold out in the community. It's just like, I was like, nobody else was gonna have them available to them, so they're like, dude, just grab me some. I was like, oh, let me make sure that it's okay with him, that I'm not like buying everything out and like screwing something up. So when I heard that you were doing this drop this way, I was like, I'm excited, because I can't tell you how many people contact me saying you're going out there, right? You're going, and you're gonna.
No, we had a great time at the one in Richmond. Shout out to Homegrown Virginia. Tons of fun, but we learned a lot from that one. Things we did right and wrong, and we were like selling the packs there, which was fun, but it was a distraction. And I wanted to spend more time just like chilling with you guys and the people that came, and smoking, and just having a good time. So this time it turned into more of like a pre-sale thing for the people that wanted to attend. And that was another thing I learned. So grateful wasn't gonna have to mule a bunch of packs back to the East Coast. I realized we needed to do a bigger drop and make it public as well. I'm never trying to leave anyone out. Sometimes the international folks get left out, and they're going to unfortunately be left out of this one. But sometimes it's a little too much.
Yeah, it's rough. Yeah, it's quite an ordeal to do all that. I know that too, because I've been contacted for that. So I hear you, man. I hear you. Yeah, but this is going to be exciting. So we got a few weeks left, and then I'll be meeting you out there. I'm going to stay with the Reverend Pirate Frog, and then we'll be hanging out in LA, and it's exciting for that drop. It's going to be really cool.
Hell yeah. Yeah, big shout out to Pirate Frog and Association for Free Weed. They're currently growing the West Coast Tucadillo for the party. they're kind of like on a crunch time zone when I like sent them the seeds and we like did the math of how long they had to like grow and finish. It was like, oh shit, it's gonna be like to the wire.
Yeah. Don't fuck it up. We're all waiting on you.
You had the pop yesterday.
Fortunately, Association for Free Weed has a freeze dryer, and I believe is going to be making some live resin and have a little dab bar going. So that'll save time on the dry cure process at least.
That's gonna be awesome.
And Pirate Frog had a good jump ahead. His plant's looking nice and bushy. And
yeah, it looks good. They got chunky for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I can tell it's probably one of those gassy phenos, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, excited for that. So it's so much fun to meet the people. Nerd, wish you were coming, man. But we definitely have our sights back on the East Coast for next year. Maybe
Nice.
Chicago or New York needs to happen soon.
That'll be awesome. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, I have a hard time with planes. With I have inner ear problems, and the pressure like screws up my head super bad.
I remember that from one of your episodes. You talking about it. Yeah, that's crazy, man. Yeah, I too would avoid that, but we'll be up in New England before long.
Yeah, we'll have a good party up there. It'll be fun. Heck yeah.
Well, speaking of my inner ear problems, so one thing I've always appreciated about you is that you have this kind of indie underground aesthetic, or as I believe punk rock, as Captain Autoflower described it. But I do like your influence of folk art, and then also you do the zine, and you're always commissioning other artists to do artwork and putting a spotlight on them. And that's something I've always appreciated. Like me and Grateful are grown up punk rock guys, so like that's the kind of stuff we've done our whole life. But yeah, I just wonder if you can tell me about like your influences in kind of the artistic side, and specifically like independent art.
Totally. Yeah, that's a big part of the brand. Just getting started was the art behind it. One aspect is just I'm an art lover. I took a lot of art history in college. That was like outside of horticulture. I was growing weed in college too, so I loved my horticulture classes because it was all applying to my growing knowledge every day, and I was just sitting there absorbing things like crazy. This was before YouTube was like super prevalent, I guess. I mean, it was around, but then my other favorite classes were art history, and I just loved it. And then I moved to New York, and I would go to the Metropolitan Museum and MoMA and the Guggenheim and all the awesome galleries around New York. And just always been an art fan. Anytime I'm going to a new city, one of the first things I look up is what art museums I want to check out and things. And I just definitely wanted to make it a big part of the brand. And the whole idea with genetics and Alebrije as being these like crazy creatures, and my wife is from Mexico, so I was always seeing these Alebrijes as we would go down and visit her family and things. And one day it just clicked. It was like, oh, that'd be such a cool thing to like, and like thinking outside the box. Like everybody's doing candy and dessert names or whatever kind of names for strains, and I was like, that would be like such an interesting way to always like make these animal creatures to represent each strain. And in doing so, I had originally wanted to do a Mexican whiskey company using Mexican corn, and every year doing like a different varietal of corn and putting back however many barrels. And then the plan was to do these small batch releases and each time get like a different Mexican artist to design the label and whatnot. And so that I quit drinking. So that plan flew out the window, and all of those ideas like sort of like flooded into Alebrije. And it's like, oh, it'd be cool to like each time we'll get a different artist, and it'll kind of make this eclectic mix of creatures. So you know, nobody really got it on the first 2 or 3, but now that I think we've got like 12 or so, yeah, that now they kind of make sense. And it's like this little group of all our past strains. And yeah, we're living in this day of AI art, which is cool, and the balance Gatuga itself was made on AI art. Although we did have real artists go in and edit afterwards to fix it up how we wanted. So it's always been touched by a human in some way or another. But yeah, that was the only one that was AI. All the rest have been, human designed and whatnot. And I just want to, I feel bad for the graphic designers out there who are just getting crushed by the AI, and it's not feeling bad. I want to support them, and I want to promote small artists. My wife is a ceramic artist. Grateful's mom is a very talented ceramic artist, and my wife does the mugs. Grateful's mom does all our plant markers. Shout out to Hello Branny. I found an awesome tattoo artist I found through you two guys. He did our Kim Labrada art, which I haven't even revealed yet. It's coming out, but it's fun how it flows through the community. A lot of times it's growers. For example, the West Coast Tucadillo is a community guy. Shout out to Charles Butkowski. He did an awesome job on that one.
Yeah.
So it's really cool how the art ties into it. And then on the other side of things, I've started like doing the zine, and my old newsletter was very pitiful. It was just like a single page with a couple bullet point highlights, and I was putting more efforts into Instagram as far as like my content went, things like that. And Instagram has just been a kill to my focus lately, and I just find it to be more of a distraction than it is a pleasure. And so I'm just trying to stay off that a little more and put more time into the zine as far as content goes. And there's just a lot more opportunity to do different things. And I've been sharing recipes. I was a chef by trade for many years, and so I like to incorporate different aspects like the art and edibles recipes and gardening tips. And like this next issue that's coming out in September in a week or two is going to be our Canna Bonsai issue. Our Canna Bonsai grow along kicks off in September. So there's this whole kind of Japanese Asian theme to this one as far as like the recipes go, and we're gonna have some haiku poetry about autoflowers in this one. And,
oh, that was so much fun.
yeah, I love y'all's haikus. So yeah, just like finding different ways to connect with the community and different ways to express myself is really the real goal. Share my photography. I was never. It's funny how we were talking about how cannabis is like a gateway drug to gardening. It's also like a gateway drug to photography. It really made me interested in taking pictures, and I love photographing the plants. And I'm not the best by any means, but I'm learning. I'm trying to get better, although sometimes it feels like I take a few steps back on a certain shoot. So many complexes to it, lighting and whatnot. But
there's quite a bit. Yeah, and shout out to Lost Coast. He's been doing some of your photos. He's got some amazing stuff. I know one of the early ones that I kind of came across was Joe's Canna Grow. He's got some awesome photos. So
yeah, shout out to both of those guys.
It's really awesome to see those the folks that really take the visual, those pictures, and really make it something special. So shout out to the photographers.
Yeah, so the photographers are another part of the art we like to incorporate. So many different aspects, but yeah, it's just sort of trying to express myself and what I enjoy, what I would, I often think about it as if I was in the customer or the community person's position and just say like, what would I want to be seeing, or what would I be into, or if I was going to get a pack of seeds, what would make me have a fun opening it, things like that.
Yeah, no, that's the one thing I think anybody that has taken part in any of either your content or any of your drops, right? It's for your drops. They're very quick. If you're not there on time or early, you might as well just not show up because it's going to be gone, right? So it's like you got that rush of like just trying to get what you get, and then some of these people are just so quick. The things fly. You put them in your cart. By the time you check out, it's taken out of your cart. Then you're backtracking. So there's any of the stuff that we've always got. Then we've got the zine that comes out, so you're always putting out this different content, or it's a different vibe that you're getting from a big box store where it's like they just put it up there, you can get it whenever you get it. That's one thing that I appreciate about you as well, is it's that craft, it's that the touch of hand that brings it something special, where you're not just buying something and then throwing it out. You've got those little pieces that you can save, and you can obviously see that you and everybody that's around you that goes into the brand cares about it, and cares about what goes out, that you're not wanting to just throw anything out, but you want to put your heart out there with it. So that's one of the reasons why I mess with you, man.
Well, I appreciate you guys, and yeah, it's to that point. I just come to realize that less is more, especially in this world of seed drops, where we all have a million seeds, and there's a million breeders out there constantly dropping seeds left and right. And I don't need to do that. I can, let's just focus on a few favorites, and just have a good time with them, expand on them, think about art for them, stories behind them, and I wouldn't do that for everything. I make a lot more seeds than ever hit the market, but it's all about just having fun and connecting with the community and growing this wonderful plant that we all love.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've also been told that you make your own kombucha.
I do.
I've made beer and wine. Is it like, how comparable are the skills to that?
Oh, even easier. It's about as easy as it gets. You literally just, make a tea or some sort of infusion in water, and then you add a certain amount of sugar to water, let it cool down to room temperature. You add your SCOBY, your starter kind of mother culture, and it usually comes in, depending on who you're getting it from or how you get it, use like a little bit of the previous batch that's gone very sour, which just sort of sets like the pH the SCOBY will thrive in, and then you just let it sit for like usually 10 days, 2 weeks or so. You just taste it as you go, and you pull it when it gets to your personal taste preference, and throw it in some of those bottles with kind of the little pop top locks, and then I'll let them like sit out another day or two just to sort of carbonate a little there, and then I'll throw them in the fridge for another week or two to like continue, kind of like it'll still slightly be fermenting and keep increasing that carbonation level, and then ready to go. Yeah, super easy. And you can make just like a base plain tea kombucha, and then you can go back to a bunch of different bottles and add fruit or a flavored syrup or whatever. Yeah, it's way easier than I made beer and wine too. It's definitely a lot easier.
Awesome. It's always something I wanted to try to make.
It's great. You can use it for gardening too. You can also just let it ferment super long, and it can kind of turn into more like a vinegar that you can use. So you can make all your own vinegars from that. It's awesome. There's people doing cool things with kombucha out there in the food world. There's this one distillery in Copenhagen, and instead of most distilleries will go back and add water to the spirits to proof it down after it's been distilled. But this company, will distill kombucha and use that instead of water to add to their other unique spirits. And it gives it's like, instead of watering down our product, we're adding all this other flavor to it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, really creative, unique stuff. But yeah, so I highly recommend it. Definitely give it a try. It does get harder in the winter months to make it, just because the fermentation is really slow. At least my houses tend to be a little chillier. So it'll be good in the fall.
Wide on top of the fridge, because the heat register is like a few feet away. That was good. That was a good spot.
Good call. Yeah. But yeah, super simple. It's also the kind of thing though, when I gave up drinking alcohol, I kind of used it as a replacement for beer, and
that's what I'm trying to do actually.
It's great for that, but you just have to have like smaller amounts, because if you have like a full 12 ounces or more, you know, might influence your digestive system in a negative way. We'll put it that way.
That's the other thing too, is like the probiotic aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's great for you, but it's best to have like, you know, like a little brandy glass of it or something, you know, maybe not like a big pint glass of it.
So, what are we watching and listening to this week?
I ain't
been
anything going on? Watching anything. No, I caught Billy. So Billy Strings is in California currently. So he's got his stay. I think the past couple days he's been in Inglewood. Unfortunately, Reverend Pirate Frog did not get to make it, which I don't know why, but so he's out there. I got to watch the show from the night before last night, and then just before we got on, I tried to start watching a show. It's one of those things with Billy Strings that I you know, a lot of people will listen to bands that, you know, they just listen to their album, what they put out, and their live shows are not always as good as their live, you know, as their recordings, as most bands do. But the thing that I like about Billy Strings, Grateful Dead, and a lot of those jam bands is their bread and butter is going out and performing those shows, and they're not playing the same songs every night. They're switching it up. So that's how they get their audience to come out to every night wherever they are. They get people that are traveling with them. So that's one of the things that I think draws me into that Billy Strings is he's not to say he's like our day of Grateful Dead, but he definitely has like those people that are following him, those people that are very into him. And he definitely does that. You know, he plays a different song every night. I mean, he's got his core songs that he'll throw in here and there, but that's what I do is I watch a lot of Billy Strings and different YouTube stuff that comes out. So that's what I've been doing.
On the same music note of just having that great live performance and free form atmosphere, I've been getting into more jazz lately, and we're going to a show this Thursday called The Birth of Cool. Just sort of like it's like 9 jazz musicians that are just going to do kind of a tribute to Miles Davis, who's one of my favorites.
Nice.
But it's that same influence of where it's very spur of the moment and free form and a lot of improvisation going on, and it just makes I read the book The History of Cannabis earlier this year, and when I learned so much more, I always knew like the jazz had, you know, some roots with cannabis, but I didn't realize how much their histories are intertwined. And it just made me like get into it even more, and so yeah, that's stoked to go to this jazz show this week.
Yeah.
And on the watching front, nerd, I've been nostalgic and have been like watching some older shows that I used to love, and I'm going back and watching Deadwood at the moment, which was like it's on its 20th year anniversary, and it was probably around 20 years ago that I watched it.
I don't think I ever watched that. That was what HBO show? It ran for what, 2 seasons?
It was 3 seasons, and then they like did a movie later, which I haven't seen, and that's part of the reason I went back. It's HBO show from the early 2000s. It's all about like
Anna Gunn is in it from Breaking Bad.
Anna Gunn, is
that her name? Skylar White.
No, it's a different woman. I don't think it's her. It's another woman who was the only show I can remember her from is the show Treme, which was also on HBO. I can't think of her name though. I'm gonna be but no,
I'm
not
terrible at names, so no worries.
I'm so bad at actors' names. Yeah, I'm the worst. But it's just about this like town in, I think it was in South Dakota, but it was like new territory out in the West in the mid 1800s, late 1800s, and there was like no laws and no rules, and a bunch of outlaws went out there to pan for gold, and there was lots of heroin coming in or opium coming in from Asia, and there was lots of prostitution and gambling, and it's all the things that make a good TV show. But yeah, it's just like spun into this like Western, but like in a different way. It's a great show. Highly recommend.
Nice.
Yeah, I've always wanted to watch it. I really do love that era of HBO. Just when it kind of like brought TV into that movie format, especially for like anti-hero dramas and dark dramas and thriller shows and stuff like that.
Totally. Early 2000s HBO was awesome.
That's where Sopranos started, right? Isn't that what I mean? Sopranos was that's what that came from.
Yeah.
The early HBO.
Sopranos, Oz, Entourage. There were some. Seeing those shows being on their like 20 and 25th anniversaries, like it's like making me feel super old.
Yeah. What about you, nerd? What have you been getting into?
The wife and I started a show called Kevin Could Fuck Himself. I think it's what it's called.
Okay.
And it's with Annie Murphy from Schitt's Creek.
Nice.
And the show completely switches styles depending on what characters are in the room. So it's about like a depressed housewife basically that wants to end her marriage kind of, and she's just really unhappy. So whenever her husband is in the room, it plays like a 90s sitcom. So it's like Full House or something, right? And then as soon as he leaves, it like snaps into like a dark drama show. And it just has this weird, but so it almost has this like A and B plot style where the sitcom side of the show has one plot going, and then so she's like, oh, how do I get out of my marriage? But then like her husband is doing some wacky like 90s dad thing of
That's really interesting. That's definitely a different, sounds unique.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
In the day where everybody's doing the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Nice.
It's on Netflix, and it ran for 2 seasons, and I believe it ended after 2 seasons. So they just added it to Netflix, I think, this week or a week or two ago.
Nice.
I'll check it out. What is it? Kevin can go fuck himself? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Right on.
But yeah, it's pretty good. Because you're like, oh, I don't know what's about to happen, and then now you're watching this like it's like watching Friends for 5 minutes, but you had just seen like some crime happen in the dark side of the show, so you're like, oh,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, it has that good. I like those like really unique shows, especially that have weird cinematography and different crossover themes like that. Like what was the big one this year? Baby Reindeer? Is that what it was called?
No.
I'm not sure about that one.
I'm the worst person to talk. That's why it's so funny with us, because I mean you definitely you like keeping up with the new shows coming out and this and that, and I'm just not much of a TV. Like I'll watch stuff occasionally, but it's usually like instructional, or it's like people put building shit, like that's like the Forged in Fire, this and that. So it's funny, a lot of these different video TV shows or movies I get recommended from you, and I'll check them out. Like I think I watched my first like I never got into anime. Well, not anime, but Attack of the Titans. That was something that you got me into really early on, and I'd never really watched those types of shows before. So kudos to you.
Yeah, that show's good. My normal routine is because I have 2 jobs. I have one that I work on the weekends. So I have my 9 to 5, and then my second job I work like 5 to 7 in the morning on the weekends, and then any day that I work from home, I'll wake up and put in a couple hours before I go to my actual job. So when I do that, like if I'm working, I just like we discussed, I have like podcasts or informational stuff on like sped up, and I just like hit myself with it all day long. And then usually my wife and I will watch TV, like we'll watch one episode of something after dinner, and then during nap time on the weekends we'll watch one episode of something.
He's a very structured guy. Very structured.
I need that routine.
Yeah, I don't watch like a ton of TV either. We find ourselves like watching less and less as we get older, and it'll just be like one episode a day, or maybe one movie a night, or something. But yeah, it's not the best habit, especially right before bed. But it's something that terrible. Kind of grew up doing. That it's hard to think of something else to do.
Yep.
Another thing I do, like if I get a craving to watch like a specific TV show, sometimes I'll just go on YouTube and watch like the clips all edited together, or I'll watch someone do like a summary recap, and that'll like scratch the itch enough. Or I'm like, oh, I don't have to invest, 60 hours to watch Breaking Bad again.
Right.
Like,
That's great.
Totally.
That's great. But yeah, so let's. I think we're just over an hour here. Tell us. I know we already kind of talked about what's coming up with you, but give us a little. What we're looking forward to, Alebrije, and any shout outs or anybody you want to mention towards the end here, and we'll wrap her up.
Okay. So we've got the West Coast Tucadillos going to be coming up next. It's going to be September 21st is the day of our party, and we're going to do the drop during the party. So it'll be, I think it's going to be around 6 p.m. West Coast time. It's going to be different than our normal drops, but
it's going to be fun.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time. Excited for this one. And then after that, we're doing our usual fall / merch drop coming up, and it'll be on December 1st. And in that one, we've got the Chem Labrada and the Blues Hormiga. The Blues Hormiga is a really fun plant. It's Blues Rosso. It was a very syrupy blueberry syrup pheno that I found in the F2s of the version 2 of Blues Rosso. Yeah. And I really wanted to just bring some blueberry. It was the main goal from that plant, to kind of like hit with the marathon, and it worked great. Pretty much every pheno expresses some blueberry, but with some nice gas and very earthy tones. It's a very, very chill strain, great for being out walking in the woods. Yeah, love that one. And then the Chem Labrada is the Sour Perezoso crossed with the Marathon. And
she's stinky. She is stinky. Yeah, it's a bite to your nose. Unfortunately, I won't be able to get to enjoy her, but yeah, it was a joy to grow, and I grew it in half gallon, or gallon and a half, and she did great.
Nice. Yeah, very great bedtime strain. Very much on the broadleaf side. Pretty rank, funk, chem, a little bit of citrus in there. Very musty, earthy. Yep. She's a good one. That's definitely in my like wheelhouse. That I will probably like continue working with that one.
Sweet.
Breeding it further, a few more generations.
That'll be awesome.
And that's it for the rest of the year, pretty much. So yeah, at the same time, I'm going to be running my. I'm still working on this Rainbow Guava number 5 conversion project. So this fall, I'll be running the F3 seeds that we discussed earlier, and I'll be working on the F4s and making some new F1 hybrids at the same time. So that'll be probably some of the things you'll see coming out early to mid next year.
Sweet. Got some good stuff to look forward to. Sounds exciting, definitely. As usual.
Lots of fun to come.
Cool, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you coming on, and it was a lot of fun, guys.
And
I'll do it again sometime.
As far as shout outs, I'm going to shout out you guys, our friends over at YAG, Cultivation Conversation, and Crafting Cannabis are my shout outs. I listen to all these shows very regularly. I listen to every episode, and the amount of times I hear shout outs to Alebrije or mentioning one of our strain names is it's music to my ears. I love it, and I'm so grateful for this community and being so supportive of us and what we love to do. So thank you guys. Appreciate it, you all.
Hey, thank you, man. We appreciate you and everything that you do for us.
And just shout out to the bigger community at large too. Everyone knows who they are.
Absolutely. So many names to mention.
Too many to mention, but you know who you are.
Sorry.
Except for howling. No, I'm just kidding.
No shout outs for howling.
No.
Kidding.
Well, cool guys. It's been real. I appreciate it. Each one of you, and we'll do this again sometime. So thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.